Thanks, Steve. Well, my story is that I was sort of catapulted into a parallel universe by being diagnosed suddenly with AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia. Jeanette and I, had just come back from attending the World Convention of Churches of Christ, which was an amazing time of networking and connecting with people in the UK and the US, Poland, etc., who were really, really excited about and amazingly had heard about through write-ups in journals and what have you, the work that we've been doing over the last 7.5 years here at Churches of Christ in terms of transformation, in terms of grappling with what does it mean to be the people of God in community today. So we arrived back, and then within a couple of days I was admitted to hospital and had commenced on this journey which has resulted in me having to resign as CEO. Really just through the nature of the 12 months almost required treatment and recovery and what have you, and the organisation couldn't, from my point of view, stay in a temporary space. So this was a life change that certainly I didn't choose or plan in any sense. It was one that was forced upon me, and this happens to all of us in some way or other. If it's not illness, someone dies, or relationships break down, or you get retrenched from a job. We all have changes. Some we choose and work our way up to, and we sort of jump. Others happen very suddenly, and we're, in my case, catapulted, I think is the word. It felt like I just, thrown into this parallel universe where I'm in hospital and I'm still getting emails because I want to read about what's going on out in this other universe, and yet I'm stuck here trying to draw on what I can to deal with what's in front of me. And clearly, as you start to come to grips with that, the pathway is going over here, when certainly my plans, a week before and certainly months before, was that the pathway would go this way. So the question is, where do you go? What do you draw upon, and what have you? Some people that know me well would know that this happened in a major way with me when I was 40, where I was diagnosed with a brain tumour, and so it doesn't. I'm not sure that it makes it any easier, but there is some drawing on. Yeah, okay, we've faced this before, certainly from illness, and I've been so blessed to have amazing highs and amazing things happen, and things work out really, really well for me. And I often reflected with Jeanette. I don't know why, I haven't chosen it, but my life has tended to felt like a bit of a roller coaster at times, where you have a number of years where things go amazingly well, and there's achievements and accolades and what have you, and then you plummet into these parallel universes through no choice. So what do you draw upon? Look, each has to draw upon their own. There is something absolutely, though, about going deeper, this notion of going very deep. There's in my case, I just count myself blessed or lucky that I've always had a sense of, certainly in my later years, of God being there. And I've had some remarkable experiences that have reinforced that. And I'll close this interview just by telling a story that happened to me last week, which was quite an amazing story for me. But the notion of the theme of stay, I think, is so true, because when you are forced into a situation or a pathway or that is not of your choosing, and there's a whole welter of emotions. There's the grief cycle initially going into shock about it all, and then there is some denial or sort of like, oh yeah, well they might have given me that diagnosis, but I'll beat it. I'll be the one that'll beat it, and you know, we'll get through this really quick if it's a health issue. Which is really denial, because as you get more and more into it, you get more and more sober about all the stats and everything else. So you've got to get through that and then start to come down to a plane of, you can't be in a crisis mode all the time. So you've got to draw upon this, okay, look, for a time, this has to be the new, this is my world, this is the new norm sort of thing that I need to. So it's getting out of this crisis mode and oh my God, this is terrible, yeah, so it's coming back to this, somewhere going deeper. For me, connecting with God, the particular treatment that I have when I've been in hospital and going through it, they wake you up at 4 o'clock every morning to take blood from you, because leukemia is a blood disease, and so they take blood, and initially it was like, oh, you know, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, you know, to take blood, and there's good reasons why they do that, which I won't go into. But and then breakfast comes at 6 o'clock. So you got 2 hours where I'm already awake. So I decided early on, somehow, instead of railing against it, I thought, this is a perfect opportunity to pray, you know. So it was like, okay, I've got, like, I'm laying in bed, I'm in hospital, there's nothing else happening, it's 2 hours before, you know, things are going to hot up. God, let me see if I can connect with you, you know. So was a very intentional thing of going on the journey. The other thing I've learnt in going on that is and been trying to practice is this Ignatian discipline of seeing God in all things. So I've been trying to work on when you're in hospital, or when you can, where is God showing up? Where is the life? And I had a little thing which sounds corny, but I was in the room, and the room that I was in, the bed was here, and there's a window, and a pigeon would come every morning and go on the windowsill and start pecking and fluttering and all that. And it was like, I don't know, there's life, you know, that every morning would come and do that. It was like, oh, somehow there was God and life in that. And if you look for it, you know, it's the smile of a nurse, or it's an encouraging word, or it's someone turns up that's most unexpected. So you can find God in all things. Yeah, the other really basic things for me, I decided I had to develop a new routine. And I think in change, that is also important when you're catapulted in, because your routine and disciplines, whether you're retrenched or whatever, so you're not going to work. In my case, I'm into this other world, so I thought I've got to put some routine and structure around it, even though a lot of it is out of my control. So I can choose, all right, I'm going to try and connect with God and listen to what God might have to say. I can choose to look at where God is showing up. I can choose to look for life and uplift. I still have the capacity to offer an encouraging word to someone that comes in, even when I'm on the receiving end of people sticking needles in you and doing all that. You can actually make I can offer an encouraging word, or something like that, which catalyses people to come back, and there's laughter and what have you. So they're really, really minor things, but even in the worst, you feel like you're out of your depth, you're out of your control, you're way, way, way out of your comfort zone. You still can choose to, to look for life, look where God's showing up, look for contributing. It obviously, as I said, was not a choice, and it was a decision I made to resign. The board everyone was wonderful, but I was carrying the weight of this. I can't go on in the role that I was in, and as CEO of it being in a holding pattern for months and months and months. That's just not. I know that's not good for the organisation. I couldn't carry the stress of that myself. I needed to say, look, that's been dealt with. So that the organisation is right, I can then communicate at that level, and then I'm confident enough that I'll get through this, and then we'll see what shows up then. That's happened a number of times in my life. So we did that. Look, for the organisation, I'm conscious it is a change. The things I'd want to say to the organisation, which I believe from the bottom of my heart to be true, is because we're discovering it, is that Christendom in the Western world is struggling. There's many wonderful examples of it working well, but across the whole system it is struggling. And the struggle is about what does it mean today and what does it look like to be the people of God in community? What does that, in a way that connects and is relevant to people? And I think a lot of the journey that we've been trying to discover and work out together, of it being faith and works in a contemporary, understandable, non-dogmatic, non-doctrinal way, does resonate with people. It's through compassion and it's through love, and ironically that's what Jesus talked about. So the things that we've promoted over the last 7.5 years of in essentials, unity, in opinions, let's have liberty and not fall out together, but in all things love, is so true. That's been the catch cry of Churches of Christ for 200 plus years. It's still absolutely true. The essentials Jesus gave us, which was love God with all your heart, soul, strength and mind, which is an external journey and an inner journey. Love one another, love our neighbour as ourselves, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It's all about love and putting the other, and then live the way that I've taught you, and go and teach other people, invite them into the kingdom with all of its life. Those 3 pillars we've had in our annual reports, we've had them through everything, that they are, you can't get away from it. They are the core. And for me, and I kept saying it, let's keep the stuff that would divide us to the edges, but focus on how can we translate and how can we live out that in a way that connects and actually makes sense to the next door neighbour who mightn't be going to church, or makes sense to the person who's working next to us or at work, or a nurse that's coming in to talk to you. It's just through warmth, love, good humour, thinking about them instead of thinking about yourself first. That's what Jesus taught. So as far as the organisation's concerned, I'm really pleased that those themes, I know, will continue. Our core strategies of of getting the action learning teams, the strategic action learning teams, the SALTs, getting mission people through our mission action partners, which in old-fashioned language is the evangelists and the apostles. Those were the words that we used then. Today we're just using language that is more accessible, but that's what they're doing to go out there. So we've got the structures, we're seeing all of these major projects and utilising all our assets. They're multi-million dollars of assets, which I think is wonderful, and that's what is interesting at a national and a global scene, is how are we doing this on a grand scale, because you can do it, they're great examples of doing it in a neighbourhood. It's the same principles, but how are we doing it on a much more grander scale? And the whole work that we've been doing around integrated communities and about enlivening communities when we go in to find out, well, what will bring the most uplift and extend, it's about, Jesus said the Great Commission, go out and tell everyone about this. Well, extend our missional footprint. Well, what we've done and what we are doing is working out how we do that. So for the organisation, I think they will continue to go forward. The core strategies, the council, the board, I'm really chuffed, have unanimously said, look, in finding a new leader, we want someone who understands and is committed to forwarding those core strategies. Of course, putting, and working with the team to take it from here up to the next level, so it's, the work of the kingdom is never done. We have a season and we contribute, but God's view is eternal. Let me finish with a story that I referred to earlier, which happened to me amazingly, and let me preface it by saying this sort of stuff sounds spooky and it doesn't normally happen to me, but this is an absolutely true story. I mentioned about being in hospital, and it was a couple of weeks ago, and I'd had a week of further fairly invasive tests of needles and blood and bone marrow biopsies and what have you, and I was exhausted. And I had come back home, and out of all of these tests, I had in my mind, this is a mini example of the theme that we're exploring, I had in my mind, I've got to clear, all right, I've got to do all of these tests, then I've got a few days break, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. It's a coping thing. Anyway, so we did all these tests, and then it must have been about 5 o'clock at night, I get a phone call from the hospital that said, look, one of the tests that we've done, we want to do further investigations. And it was on the heart, and I've never had any issues about heart. But anyway, they said, we want to do a further test. I'm thinking, don't tell me there's something wrong with me. Heart now. And let me jump, there's not. But at the time, they're doing further tests. And then I got another 2 more phone calls from different departments saying they wanted to do further tests. Now, what that did, I was already exhausted, is it really plummeted me down. I was really just like, it somehow, and what it was that it meant I had to go back when I had this space to have further tests done in the hospital the following week. And so I was, somehow it really threw me, and I was trying to, one of them, I had to make the appointment, so I was trying to put the appointment details in my iPad, and then the iPad froze, and I lost it. And for me, it was a swear word, and Jeanette was in the kitchen. She heard me. She says, "Look, you need to stop. You need to stop." I said, "I can't stop. I'll forget what the appointment times are and what have you." And she said, "You need to stop. You're exhausted. You lost it. Whatever it is, just, you need to go and lay down." And I was getting angry. I was getting angry at her. And I was just, anyway, she said, "You need to come and lay down now." So okay, and I heard it. So I went and laid down. And so it was like, all right, just let the water settle here. I really have got myself in a state. So I'm letting all the water settle, just trying to, calm down. And then somewhere in there, I found myself praying, and I said to God, look, you got to help me deal better with when things go wrong, because I said, I know on this journey I'm on, things are going to go wrong. I'm getting in my mind, I've got this appointment, then I got this, and then I got that, and then something else happens, and it's like, oh my God, and it's anxiety. Anxiety was welling up inside me. And I'm not too bad. Generally, I've learned over the years to be pretty calm, but it was. I recognised. I thought, it's all this anxiety. So I said, God, look, I'm really praying. Please help me deal with situations that have gone wrong, that I haven't planned for, and are precipitating me into a space. You've got to help me do this, because I know the journey I'm on, that's going to happen at time and again. And so the other thing I've been practicing is about having beamed a prayer to God to actually create space to allow God to talk to you. Because I'm really good at sort of assemble all the things that I want and help with, send them to God, and then my mind's on to, okay, I'm moving forward. I've handed it across to God, good, I'll move forward. Instead of just stopping and saying, mentally creating space, a blank canvas to say, God, what are you saying to me? As I said, I've been trying to practice that at the 4 a.m. prayer sessions. And lots of times nothing comes. But this situation, almost immediately, Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7. Now, I'm not a great one for Bible verses appearing in my mind, but it just came to me, and I knew what that Bible verse was, and it was about don't be anxious. It says, don't be anxious about anything, but with prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, bring it to the Lord, and the peace of all understanding will guard your hearts and minds. And I'm thinking, guard my heart. I'm worried about my heart. Guard your mind, because I'm getting myself in this state. It just came to me, and it was like, thank you, God. Don't be anxious about anything. don't be anxious about anything. Was the God saying this to me? Thinking, oh, thank you, God. But the story didn't stop there. I thought, oh, all right, I've got myself settled, I'm back in the zone, I'm all right. And I thought, I've been laying down and I had my mobile phone on the bedside table, and I thought I was doing that from memory, the verse from memory, and I thought I want to look that up and just see exactly what the words are saying. So I picked up my phone and I looked at the time because I've been lying down. I was sort of, what time was it? And it was 6:18. It said on my clock on the phone. So I'm about to call up the app on the phone, and I get a daily verse sent to me just through Bible Gateway. Just a verse comes to me every day, just onto my phone. As I'm looking it up, bing, it comes through from Bible Gateway, Philippians 4, 6 and 7. And the time of 6:19, and I actually took a photo of the screen because I thought, this is unbelievable. As I said, that sort of stuff I'm normally very sceptical about people said, oh, God gave me a parking space or whatever. This was like, oh my God, you're actually like, you came into my mind. And now I'm going to look it up. It's like, no, you don't need to look it up. I'm going to send it to you, How that works, I've got no idea other than people say that it works. But this was like, you need to get this. Don't be anxious about anything on this journey, but with prayer and petition, just bring it to it. And peace will guard your hearts and guard your mind. That is an absolute true story. If we had visuals, I could show you the phone screen. But Philippians 4, 6 and 7 was God saying to me, that. So in my case, how do you stay? How do you cope? For me, on the journey I'm on, getting that framed up and putting it on the wall. So I'm sort of looking at this because it's like I won't forget that. That's happened a couple of times in my life journey. Doesn't happen to me every day or every week or whatever. A couple of times, something like that defies it. And I was telling Jeanette afterwards because I was so excited about it, and I said, look, if you calculate the odds of that, like a verse coming into my mind, even like subconsciously, I've got anxiety and somehow I've sourced a verse that I don't be anxious about it. That you could sort of put together, but then for that at 6:18, I'm looking at the phone. 6:19, that verse happens out of all the possible verses to go bing on my phone. So how do you explain it? So look, I tell that story, and I've spoken long enough to encourage people. Things happen. We get pushed off a cliff, and we get pushed into the dark, stormy, turbulent seas, and we fear for our life. We swallow water and we think we're drowning. We all have versions at different times. You can't escape it. In my case, it's ill health. In other cases, it'll be different circumstances. But when you're in that sea and the waves are overwhelming you and you're swallowing water and you fear for your life, that you are drowning, you've just got to do what you can to strike forward, because I'm now in the sea. I'm not on the solid ground that I wanted to be on. I've actually been pushed into this. So you've got to go deep. You've got to get your head above water. You've got to take breaths where you can, using that metaphor. I'm offering, look, out of my life journey, I can say with all the truth that I believe, other truths in my life, that there is a God, that somehow that I don't understand, God does have a personal relationship and does care and does love each one of us. You need to tap into that and allow that to give you some oxygen and to give you life, because that is one of the things that if you don't have that, it doesn't mean you can't survive the thing, but it's a really good help to do on that. And then you do the things, as I said, for me, look for where God shows up. The Jesuit St. Ignatius thing of seeing God in all things is quite profound. And the Philippians 4 I emphasised bring it with prayer and petition with thanksgiving. It's sort of when I read it, I thought, oh, with thanksgiving, you know, like all of this awfulness with thanksgiving. It's like the thanksgiving is the blessing, is the life, is the light. It's the pigeon at the window. It's the warm smile. It's the encouraging word of people. It's someone turning up or someone sending you an amazing, encouraging text at a time. Or it's just if you Jesus said, if you've got ears, listen. If you've got eyes, see. You know, and it's true. It's all around us if you look for it. You know. So in summary, I want to encourage every person individually. All of you will be reflecting and listening to different things where we've perhaps been pushed off the cliff and you're in those turbulent seas. Know, I say it with all the conviction that I can, know that there is a God who loves you, and that try and just be open to that. Try and clear your head. Just try it. Just clear your head and see what comes. As I said, oftentimes for me, nothing comes, but sometimes it's like, oh, you know, it's there. So do that. And I think I'd say as an organisation, you know, stepping out of the CEO role, be encouraged. Churches of Christ as a movement is special. Wherever you are in the organisation, you'll see different parts of it, but collectively I've had the great blessing and gift to be able to sort of see it from the top of the mountain or the helicopter view, and it's a very special place, special organisation that at this point in history I think is being blessed. You will have heard, you know, all the stats about doubling in size and what have you. It is. So I encourage you to stay, go the journey, do the micro things that you need to do to not be anxious, to actually look for where God is showing up, and contribute as you can, because in the end, as Paul said, all will be well. Thanks.